Thank you so much for joining me. And whenever you are watching this, I pray that you are blessed by the words that I share and by the things that I say. I want to thank each and every one of you that are a part of my community, each and every one of you that are connected to me in some way, shape, or form. I am grateful that you allow me to be connected to each of you, to be a part of your lives, to be a part of your journey. And I'm praying that this leg of your journey is one of the most peaceful and the most clear legs of your journey that you have experienced to date. Over the last couple of weeks, I have taken the time to restore myself. I've taken a vacation with my son, and every single day that I was with him while I was on vacation, while we went to many sites, we saw many different things. We went to the beach and we went to stores and we walked around and we had a lot of fun. I think one of the most exciting moments that I was able to spend with my son was waking up every single morning and getting to see his face. That brought sheer joy and it restored me. It restored my hope. It restored my happiness and my peace. You know, I must be honest and I also must be transparent that these last couple of months have been extremely difficult for me. When you are a person that gives of yourself and you give of your time, you give of your talent, and you give of your heart, the world is not always so kind. And with the duality of the world not being kind, there are also things that you have to endure on a daily basis as this thing called life. And the weight of those situations and circumstances can outweigh some of the hope or the joy that you have. And there are moments where I felt extremely low. I felt extremely exhausted. I felt extremely worn. When you are in constant battle to create and to produce, but to also show up for those that are around you. There are times and seasons when you do not feel a return on what you are giving out, and your cup can run empty. And so it has been extremely important to me over the course of these last couple of weeks to be refilled, to be restored. And in that process of being refilled and being restored, I wanted to make sure that I put myself in the position to never allow me to get to the place of exhaustion again, to where I feel or felt as though I was being emptied and nothing was being poured back in. Your mental health can be challenged, your peace can be challenged, and even your trajectory, if you're not careful, can also begin to challenge and become challenged. And I'm being transparent today strategically because I believe that I'm not the only one that has felt the weight and the pressure of having to deal with the vicissitudes of life. I am being transparent today in hopes that someone else that may be dealing right now with a low place, whether it is in your heart, whether it is in your relationships, whether it is in your finances, whether it is in your business, whether it is just your mental health and just your peace in general. I am being transparent today in hopes that someone else that may experience some of these moments, that you may hear today that there is nothing wrong, that you are normal for experiencing the things that you do. But today it is my prayer to offer you a solution to help you as you begin to navigate through this next season of your life. It is true indeed that to whom much is given, much is required. And if you're going to have a great call and if you're going to have a great purpose on this earth, then you are also going to go through great experiences. You're going to have great moments where you may question or doubt yourself. You will have great moments of rejection. where maybe you have offered yourself or been there for others and maybe you didn't see the same in return. Those moments are going to happen. And I want to normalize, if I can today, I want to normalize the understanding that we cannot expect everyone to receive us. We cannot expect for everyone to love us and to welcome us. And it is completely okay to release yourself from spaces and people that do not welcome your energy. Now, I want to connect everything back to Scripture because I think that it's important for those of us that live by the principles of Scripture that we can understand that Jesus spoke about this himself, that he gave us clear instructions. And it is almost as though the scripture that I'm going to read to you today, it is almost as though that scripture was written for these times. It is very relevant, even though it was written over 2,000 years ago. It's amazing how the scripture, it is relevant even in today. Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. And I'm going to look at verse number 11, 12, 13, and 14. I want to look at those verses today. Matthew chapter 10, it reads this way. Verse number 11. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. I want to talk through this scripture because it is relevant to today's times, where we see a lot of messages on a consistent basis that the messages say things such as, if your energy is not welcomed, then take that as a sign and remove yourself. And I think that sometimes we can get caught when we are people that are called by God and we are chosen by God, when we are people that are natural lovers or nurturers, or people that are naturally inclined to heal and to care for others. There are many times that we can expect that there will always be reciprocation from the energy that we put out. Jesus gives us a clear understanding that your energy is not always returned from those that you may give it to. He gives us a clear example as you read further in the scripture down to verse number 16 that sometimes we are sent out as sheep amongst wolves. That everyone that you connect to and everyone that you talk to doesn't always have the purest of intentions. And sometimes it's a result of where they are. Sometimes it's a result of them not going through the proper healing that they should have gone through. But I have seen moments in my life, and I'm sure you have seen them in yours as well, where God has sent you to a person or to a position or to a place, or God has sent you into a community, or God has sent you into a job, or God has sent you around someone that you were called to make an impact and to change and to show your love, to show your goodness. You were called to serve them. And maybe they disappointed you. Maybe they hurt you. Maybe they used you. Maybe they took what they could get and then they left you, or they dismissed you or ghosted you, or whatever the case may be. While that form of rejection may hurt, while you expect for those that you are kind to be kind back to you, it is a part of life that everyone that you are good to and everyone that you are kind to will not return that same kindness and that same goodness. The challenge for you and the challenge for me is not to respond from a place of hurt, not to respond from a place of pain, or not to turn into what or who has hurt us. Our challenge is to be like Daniel, how Daniel would refuse to change. He refused to bow. He refused to stop being the person that he was called to be. And because of that, God caused him to come out 10% above the rest. When we look at the scriptures, and we look at this scripture specifically in Matthew chapter 10, we hear that there is a call and a plan that God has for us. But we also understand that everyone doesn't always align with the plans that are given. That sometimes you can be sent into someone's life to pray for them, to encourage them, and to be a blessing to them. And they can see you as competition. They can see you as an enemy. They can see you as someone that they maybe don't want to connect with. And one of the worst mistakes that we can make in life is becoming so attached to people, places, and things that we do not learn how to wipe the dust from our feet and move on. I can say for me that I have been in that place before, where one of my, as they say, toxic traits is continuing to love people and to show up for people beyond their ability to receive me. Everyone doesn't have the capacity to receive the fullness of who you are. And sometimes the more we try to force a person, a place, or a thing, whether it is a job, whether it is a family member, whether it is relationships, whether it is your friendships, the more you stand and try to force someone to accept the fullness of who you are, sometimes the more we hurt ourselves in that process. Jesus gives us a complete example of what we must learn how to do so that we can protect ourselves. I think verse number 13 points out something so amazing to me that over these last couple of weeks I have had to relearn and learn. And that is, if the home is not deserving, if your home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. Sometimes we continue to give our peace out to spaces and to places that are not deserving of our peace. And I know that that is a very hard statement to hear, because we are always believing that everyone, or I have always believed that sure, everyone has a spot where they should be able to be softer and receive love, that everyone should eventually get to a place where they can be open. But there are some people that will not and do not want healing. There are some people who are not willing to see things any differently than how they have seen them. There are some people that are hurt, that are damaged, that are broken, and they don't want to be restored. They don't want to walk in another space. There are some people who live in a form of darkness and in a form of untruth. They don't want to come into the light because it serves them much better to rest on the other side of light, to rest on the other side of truth, to rest on the other side of vulnerability. Because it indeed takes a lot of courage to be the individuals that you are. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and to be honest and to be loving. It takes a lot of courage in this culture and in this society to be a person that constantly and willingly shows love. But Jesus tells us, freely he gives, and so freely we must continue to give. That we cannot stop for a moment being who we are and loving how we love, just because there are a few people that God is telling us to wipe the dust off of our feet. Maybe sometimes the weight of what you are carrying is that there is too much dust on your feet from people that you should have wiped off a long time ago. I think that one of the greatest challenges in my life is carrying the dust from one space of my life into the next. The problem with carrying the dust from one space of your life into the next is that you can allow dust to get on clean spaces that God has caused you to flourish in. You can allow the dust to rob you of peace and joy in a season that you are supposed to experience great bounty. And it can exhaust you and wear you out because everything that you step into and every space that you step into that God has blessed you with, you're too busy wiping the dust and tracking the dust on everything else in your life. This is a season that God is calling you to be free of any dust and any dirty situations that have placed you in a place of heaviness, that you allow yourself to release the pain, the shame, the guilt, that you allow yourself to release those that did not receive who you were. And you step up to the position and to the plate and to the place that God is taking you to next. Maybe God had you in the season of seeing who people really were. Maybe God had you in the season where you experienced great rejection and great hurt. And maybe He allowed this to happen because He wanted you to release yourself. Because if you didn't, you would continue to carry all of the hurt, all of the situations to the next situation that you are walking into. You know, a lot of times I find that when working on jobs, we will have a person that will come in and you'll try to teach them a new way of doing things or the way that your company does things. And many times you will hear people say, well, at my last job, we used to do this, or at my last job, we did it this way. And you have to reprogram them to help them to understand that that worked at your last job. This is a new position. This is a new company. This is a new culture. This is a new environment. And as long as you carry the last place into the new place, it prevents you from being able to do the greatness of the job that you probably could do if you would reprogram your mind. Sometimes when we go from one relationship to another, we allow the toxicity and the hurt and the pain and all of the fears and insecurities of the last relationship to show up in the new relationship. I'm not sure if you've ever found where people will come into things guarded and hurt and respond from their guardedness and from their hurtness. I had to realize for myself, for pastoring for over 18 years, there have been some moments that have really disappointed me. There have been people that I have given my last to. There have been people that I have woken up at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning and gone to be with their family in their times of need. And those same people have talked about me and dismissed me and hurt me. And when I needed them the most, they weren't there. There are friends that I have given my heart to and prayed for and shown up for. And those same friends, when in the company of other people, they didn't guard my name the way I guarded their names. I've had family members and friends that I have given my heart to, whether in prayer, in service, or in deed. And in the moment where I may have needed them, they weren't there for me. And that hurt and that pain began to carry from one space of my life into another. And I had to wipe the dust off of my feet. It's easier said than done to wipe the dust off of your feet, because what that looks like, it looks like forgiving. It looks like you opening up your heart to continue to show up, to be the same person, even though you're hurt and you're disappointed. But the one thing you can never do, no matter how bad you've been broken, no matter how bad you've been disappointed, the one thing you can never do is allow things to take your peace. Jesus tells us in verse number 14, that we are to, 13, that we are supposed to take our peace back, wipe the dust from our feet, allow those people and those individuals to be exactly where they are. Maybe you have done your part, and that was all you needed to do, was to show them that it was possible to love. Maybe you have done your part, and you have shown what it meant to be a friend. Maybe you have done your part and you have shown what it meant to be a good employee. Maybe you have done your part and you have shown what it meant to be a good family member. And once you have done that, you can wipe the dust from your feet. It does not stop God from moving for you, because God moves for you because you did for him and unto them what you knew was best. And when you have done that, God will always reward you for being who you were called to be. When I go back and look at the story of Daniel, I can see this as clear as physically possible. That Daniel went through various circumstances and situations. We know how he was thrown into the lion's den. We know how he was put in situations where people dismissed him. Even people that he had been around, that he had encountered in love and even shown up to be kind to. That those same people sent him into the den of lions. Jesus tells us in verse number 16, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes, but as innocent as doves. Be on guard. You will be handed over to the local council and flogged in the synagogues. You will experience people that do not care how they impact you or how they hurt you. But God's promise to you is that he will always keep you, and that doing the right thing, showing up right, it always pays off in the end. It may not come from those that you have shown it to. It may not come from those that you have poured yourself out to. But when you can wipe the dust off of your feet, you can see clearly that there is a way that is paved for you. And that way was paved by your good actions, your good intentions, and you showing up in love the way that you do. I want to challenge you today to release yourself from any person, place, or thing that you have carried the pressure and the pain of that circumstance. I want you to release yourself on this great day from any rejection, any pain, any hurt, and release people from any obligation that you have given them to show up for you. If you can release them, you can allow yourself to experience a greater level of joy. You can allow yourself to experience a greater level of provision. And you will see that the season that is in front of you is one that is meant to bless you abundantly. You will see that doors will suddenly become open for you. You will see that things will suddenly fall into place for you because you have done what is right. And you can never go wrong when you do what is right. And maybe everyone may not receive you. Maybe some people will dismiss you or reject you. But regardless of what they do to you, you continue to be who God has called you to be. And God will always cause you to rise 10% above the rest. I was talking to one of my closest friends, one of the longest friends I've had in my life. And this particular friend has walked through so many different experiences with me. He was there with me when church people hurt me, when they used me, and when they talked about me. He was there in some of the moments where I continued to show up in grace. with a smile on my face in front of those that I knew had talked about me. I continued to show them love. I continued to show them support. He was also there when I needed them, when I became sick. But God healed me and restored me 10 times better than what I was before I ever got sick, before the back problems ever happened, before they ever found a tumor on my spine, before they ever removed my ribs. God healed me and brought me through that. And God allowed me to come out 10 times better. And I believe that is as a result of me showing the love and showing the grace and showing goodness to people who did not receive it. I believe that those seeds that I sowed unto them showed up for me when I needed it the most. And I believe for you today that God would allow what you have done to others to return back to you. Just wipe the dust from your feet. Release the pain. Release the hurt, the humiliation, and walk in willingly to receive the goodness. Surely, goodness and mercy will follow you all of the days of your life. I pray that today has blessed you and encouraged you. I pray that somehow or another you have heard the command, you have heard the gentle pull to release yourself from all of the pressure, from all of the pain that you have carried, and that you will see that whom the Son has set free is free indeed, that you are indeed free, that you are free to walk in and to experience goodness, that you are worthy and deserving of everything that is on your heart, and that you will receive what God has for you in this season. I pray that today has been a blessing to you. Do me a favor, maybe share this message with someone today. Someone else needs to hear this. Someone else has been in the spot that they've carried this heaviness, and today they need to be set free. Share this message with them. Do me another favor. There is a link tree right in the bio. I want you to do me a favor. If you have never subscribed, please consider subscribing today to every one of the platforms. I would love to continue to connect with you. I would love for you to get the messages as soon as they drop, for you to be one that is notified first so that you can be a part of my family. For those of you that sow each and every week, I want to think there's a couple of special partners that every single week you are sowing so faithfully. Thank you for sowing 200, 300 every single week. I am praying for you. And the moment that I see your messages, the moment that I see your name pop up, I immediately call your name out and I pray for you. So thank you for being partners with me. Maybe you need prayer today. Simply say, I need prayer. Every single Thursday at 6 o'clock a.m., our team is praying. And we would count it as a privilege and an honor to pray for you. Either way, thank you so much for joining. Wipe the dust from your feet. It's time for you to go into your next season. God bless you today. Thanks for joining.